communicate with submarines, so it penetrates deep into the ground. And a few places in Waianae, when you drive through, your radio go.
Yeah.
I wonder what's causing that. But it's also going through us. If it's going through the ground, it's going through us. A little further down, I live in Lulule. Every time they train in Schofield, I'm a downwinder. So all of that Opala, when it goes straight, blows right into my bedroom, on my bed, onto me. So when they're training, my windows rattle, my house shakes, machine guns or howitzers going off. Normally, like, goes to about 11, sometimes 12 o'clock, and sometimes early in the morning. But this is some of the stuff that our coast is exposed to. I'm a Vietnam vet, I don't like hearing that stuff. I didn't go to Vietnam to come back and listen to this kind of stuff. The PTSD that anybody that's gone to a combat zone faces every day. It doesn't ever go away. A little further, let's see, Waianae Valley was plantation before. All of the water was diverted. So Nanakuli lost its water, Waianae lost its water. And let me back up a little bit. Lulule, huge magazine storage. The other day I was looking, and the Navy had stored nuclear weapons. So what does that mean for us? What's the emergency plan? Body bags, or just a dustpan to scrape up the dust? I don't know. That kind of stuff isn't discussed, but we're exposed to that as part of environmental injustice. Further down, Macau, same thing, taking the water. Further on down, you have Makua. They've been training there since the late 20s. Their lease started after statehood in 64 for 65 years for $1. But that means it was, I asked the guys if they ever got the money, and they said, well, no, it's a token thing. So you never paid us for the land, but you got the lease, you blew it up, and you still have unexploded ordnance there. It's still contaminating the Aina, the water, the shoreline. Then they also dumped all of the, what do you call that? The outdated munitions out in the ocean. Again, that's only up to Makua. Now we're talking about Kaena. They already have golf balls up there, and this is similar to what's happening on Mauna Kea. They snuck in, they did stuff. Snuck in, did stuff. Now they're looking at putting some monstrous, multi-billion-dollar system. When I attended the community meeting, the week before that community meeting on the EIS, I read that Congress had already approved funding to develop the rocket motors and talked about the inventory of how many rockets they needed. Now, when they had that EIS meeting, the problem that happened was that a month before they did a test to try and intercept something, and they missed. But the first time, other times they ended up getting it after it passed Hawaii. So it doesn't really help Hawaii. We become more of a target, like Pearl Harbor. They didn't attack Hawaiians, they attacked the military. This makes Waianae a huge target. Besides communication center and weapons storage, now we're going to end up with a radar facility that makes us even more of a target than ever before, putting all of our family, all of our Aina at risk. So that's as far as I wanted to go. I'm going to pass this on to Lynette. So that's a tour of Waianae, and we pass these things every day that we become blind to them and accept. So I'm more for peace, not the mouthpiece, but somebody that's going to have the political will to make a difference and stop this kind of stuff, and no more. So the next cruise is our president.
Thank you, Uncle Sparky.
Aloha, you guys can hear me, yes? I don't really need a mic, right?
No.
No, you need.
Okay, on behalf of Moama Makua, I want to just thank you all for coming and welcome everybody in. Also, I want to acknowledge that these two organizations, Waianae Hawaiian Civic Club and Makaha Hawaiian Civic Club, I think they were providing our food tonight. But also wanted to acknowledge, yes, food. I also want to acknowledge Senator Maile Shimabukuro, because without her help, we would not be here tonight and listening to the two ladies that are coming up. So our first speaker tonight is Lynda Williams. Where are you? Lynda Williams. And following Lynda's presentation will be Helen Jaccard from you guys see this sign up here?
Golden
It's very
Rule
cool.
Peace Boat.
The Golden Rule Peace Boat. And I wanted to ask you all if you will hold your questions until the two ladies have finished.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be blown away by the information that they share. Certainly Lynda is going to blow your socks off because she had practice for a couple different times in front of my classes, and they were, I think, stunned. It's a good word. They were stunned. They didn't know what to say. So Lynda, let's go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. I think you do have to talk deep into the mic.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so I have to sit because I have to do my own media. I have some hands out, and Keziah is my student from Santa Rosa Junior College in Sonoma County. She's transferring to UH.
All right, welcome.
So she and her mom are here. I'm so glad.
Welcome,
and if you didn't
welcome.
get the little information, she'll pass it out to you.
Welcome to the
So-
kingdom.
Yeah, welcome her. She's awesome. Okay, so my name's Lynda Williams. I'm here from Santa Rosa. How do I advance this thing?
Arrow. Right.
Arrow. What are we going to do tonight? Here's what I'm planning to do. First, I'm going to talk about what is missile defense and what's the radar for. Why do they think we need it, or you need it? Where do they want to build it, and what's the impact? What's the status of the project, and what can we do to stop it? And I would just like to clarify for some folks who weren't sure if I was for or against it, I am definitely against it. I said I live in Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is Pomo country, and this is a map of all the different tribe communities before colonial contact, and they are thriving, and that's a picture of some Miwakan ceremony, and I just thought I'd share that. I went backwards. A little bit about me before I get started. I'm a physicist, I'm a physics professor, but my first passion has always been peace. I grew up with a single mom who was always an activist, belonged to the Unitarian Church, and she taught me how to be a righteous woman. And so I started out as an anti-nuclear activist, but I didn't understand the science, so I went to go learn it, and I found out I was really kind of good at physics, and I liked it. So I pursued a degree, and I almost had my PhD, but I burned out and quit. So I have my master's, and I teach at a community college, and I love community college, that community. I'm also a performance artist, and I do multimedia performance art. I do shows like, I'm interested in the future of life, of how we can create a world based on peace instead of war. And so shows I've done are planetarium shows on future evolution of life. I did the best show I've ever done. It was so hard on Polynesian wayfinding, trying to explain it in a planetarium. And, oops, I keep going backwards, sorry. I also do cabarets. I'm a singer-songwriter, so I kind of do science, political science. I try to empower people to stand up to the oligarchy of science, of Western science. And I just want to say about Mauna Kea, I've been an advocate and supporter of the protectors of Mauna Kea for over 5 years now, and I always say that it has never been a struggle between science and culture. It's been a struggle between culture and culture. The culture of Western science is colonialism. And it's been a struggle between science and science. So it's not culture versus science. And I think that Aloha Aina is more important than the physics of black holes for saving planet Earth. And I was in People magazine once. There I am. Hey, Einstein. Okay, so I've done a lot of speaking on nuclear power. That was my passion. But then back in 1999, I was in grad school and I saw this brochure that was put out by the Air Force, the same Air Force that just said they're going to base their space command in Kauai. Did you guys hear that news last week that came out? And this is their brochure for 2020, and ironically, 2020 is coming up. And this is their vision, is to put weapons in space to fight wars on Earth and in space. So this brochure just blew my mind. They had laser weapons in space, and look at that. So to hit satellites, to hit nuclear weapons, you know, whatever. They want to have the ultimate high ground, and you know the ultimate high ground is space itself. And my people, I don't want to say they're my people, but the community that I work with, physicists, this is their job, this is their business. So I always felt it my duty to speak up and tell them to stop the madness, like this madness here. So I found this group called the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. It's an international consortium of activists. They've been Jeju in all these communities that are oppressed by militarism. And so I joined them and I love them. And if you're interested in joining a group like this, then it's spaceforpeace.org. I named it. I feel really proud that I gave them the URL. Okay, so like some of the things we've done since I joined, I'm on the board, but it's not my leadership. But we've been all over the world trying to promote an awareness of the weaponization of space and how that impacts life on Earth. And we did a conference here in Oahu with the Peace and Justice group back in 2012. And then we did this, that's it, PMRF missiles cultures. So you may know Kuhan Pak, she's up there on the right-hand side. So now I speak out about war in space and the importance of keeping space as a global commons for all humanity to share and to keep heaven a peaceful place and not another war zone for the military-industrial complex to profiteer from at our expense. So this is what they're planning. This year, and then we're going to look at the archaeological survey that was done and what's up on top of Cayena Point, up on the ridge, the sacred sites, and what can we do about it to stop it. So this guy's not the commander anymore, but this was the press release. There he is. He used to be the commander of the Space PACOM, which is now the United States Indo-Pacific COM, which is, of course, in Honolulu.
You almost look like Bush a little bit in that picture.
They all look like it. They're drones. The new radar will provide an enhanced ballistic missile sensing and discrimination capability in the Pacific and will increase the capability of the ground-based mid-course defense system to defend the state of Hawaii. The radar is being built to stay ahead of potential future threats.
His dad won.
So check that out. It's being built for potential future threats. So the current plan is to start building in 2021 and have it finished in 2023. So those potential threats are way far off in the future. What threat is it? The bomb.
The boys and girls.
Right? And Korea, that's the big one. But then there's the other boys who like to play with the bomb. So there's all kinds of threats we have in order to build these weapon systems, according to the Pentagon. And what the defense radar is supposedly for is to be able to detect incoming nuclear weapons and blow them up in space before they hit us. And so just in case you forgot or didn't know, we have lots of nuclear weapons on the planet. There's about 2,000 with the overkill to destroy the biosphere and all the life on it many, many times over. Now, this is one of my favorite pictures. The dot in the middle is all the firepower, including the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's the dot in the middle. All the other dots is the current power of the stockpile, all the bombs we have. And it's kind of a cartoon, but it...
For the U.S. or for the world?
The world. The world. It's overkill. You know, nuclear weapons are in Hawaii all the time. You know, we don't know when because they're on these nuclear submarines and they have these tridents. So I was trying to find out, these are the Ohio class, blah, blah, blah. Lockheed Martin makes the missile and General Dynamics makes the sub. The sub's about $2 billion and the missile's like 250 million or something crazy like that. So this is a nuclear island. You know, we know they're bombing Pocolo, or they did in the past with depleted uranium, and there is nuclear waste all over the place, but there's actually nuclear weapons here. So talk about making Hawaii a target. The real goal of everything I'm saying, and Helen's going to say, is that we need to denuclearize this planet.
Ew.
Love it, yo. So here's the basic, you know, this is like a nerd fest, but here's the basic idea. The enemy launches an intercontinental nuclear missile that goes up into space, and then the goal is that we're going to shoot it out of space. It's the best if we shoot it while it's in space, not over our heads. So that's what is called ground-based missile defense, and the radar is supposed to support that. So is the S-band, you know, the floating golf ball, but that's a boondoggle. That thing doesn't work, and everybody knows it.
Oh, wow.
So I have a couple little videos to demonstrate some of this stuff and make it more understandable, and I hope it works. Oh, actually, I think that's online, and we're not online, so I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. That's okay. It's okay, it's okay. I got ones that are embedded. We don't need it. It's too much.
All right.
It's sickening.
Nice.
States proposes to build a national
It's not on
missile
this.
defense system to intercept long-range missiles.
Is that...
The United States
No,
proposes
I
to
said-
build a national.
Okay. Can you make it go back to the Bluetooth? So this video is produced by the Union of Concerned Scientists, which is an amazing U.S.-based organization of scientists who work to critique and analyze the weapon systems, and they distribute papers and research, and they make very important informational videos that you can use. And this is a video that explains why missile defense will never work, why it is inherently like a ridiculous plan. And sadly, because we were so worried after 2001, 9/11, they pushed through this legislation that allowed missile defense technology to get pushed into deployment without testing. So none of this has been tested properly. And maybe sometimes you know, because they used Kauai and they launched the missile.
Missiles attacking the U.S. Here's how it's supposed to work. After launch, the attacking missile's warhead is released early in flight, before any interceptors can reach it.
Should I turn that down?
Oh, well, you
That's
can
fine.
forward to the next one.
That's fine.
It was fine. It was great. So now you gotta go. I'll do it.
Thank you.
United States from a limited long-range missile.
There we go.
The United States proposes to build a national missile defense system to intercept long-range missiles attacking the U.S. Here's how it's supposed to work. After launch, the attacking missile's warhead is released early in flight, before any interceptors can reach it. The defense uses ground-based radars and satellite-based heat sensors to detect the incoming warhead. It then launches interceptor missiles, each carrying a kill vehicle.
Kill them.
As a kill vehicle approaches the warhead, it relies on its own detectors to locate the warhead, guiding itself to smash into it. That's the theory. Unfortunately, if the U.S. were attacked, things probably wouldn't look quite so simple. Any country that can build a long-range missile could also build far simpler devices, called countermeasures, to confuse the defense. For example, the attacker could use balloons made out of shiny mylar plastic, just like children's balloons. Dozens of uninflated balloons could be packed around the nuclear warhead, each to be inflated with a small gas generator, like a car airbag, only slower. After launch, the missile releases dozens of balloons, all empty except for the one containing the warhead. Because there is no air resistance in space, the lightweight balloons and the heavy warhead all travel at the same speed. The defense radars can't tell which balloon contains the warhead. The shiny metallic coating of the mylar prevents the radars from seeing what's inside each balloon. Furthermore, the balloons can be made to tumble, so the radar can't identify the warhead from its motion either. What about heat detection? A warhead gives off heat. However, a small battery-powered heater can be used to heat the balloons to different temperatures. As a result, the defense's infrared sensors have no way to determine which balloon contains the warhead. So now the defense has to shoot at all the balloons to intercept the warhead. The U.S. plans to build 100 to 250 interceptors and will fire up to 4 interceptors at each target. If the attacker launches several missiles, each with dozens of balloons, the defense would quickly run out of interceptors. Another easy countermeasure is using bomblets. Instead of a single large warhead, the attack is made with many small warheads called bomblets or submunitions. The missile releases 100 or more bomblets early in flight, before the interceptors can reach them. The cloud of bomblets arcs through space, growing up to 15 miles across by the time it reaches the target. Because of this, using bomblets is the most effective way to disperse chemical and biological agents from a missile. Now, every object the defense sees is a real warhead, but there are simply too many for the defense to intercept them all. Countermeasures like these would defeat the planned missile defense system, and a defense that won't work is no defense at all.
So this was actually produced like early on. Missile defense wasn't deployed for until 2004 by Bush. And so they've only built 60 interceptors, okay? And they're located at Vandenberg and in Alaska. Each one costs $250 million. And so you could trick it with a Mylar balloon that costs $5. It's just absurd. And so what pisses me off about the money, and why I talk about the money a lot, is because that's money that could have gone for houses and homes and school and medicine and so many other things. So it's our money, right? I mean, it's the taxes money. So. All right. So then there's another little video by somebody else. I don't know who this is from.
The United States from a limited long-range missile threat. The military has deployed a national missile defense system called Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, or GMD. Here are 5 key things to know about GMD. 1. GMD uses interceptors to attempt to destroy an incoming missile traveling roughly 15,000 miles per hour, or about 20 times faster than the speed of sound.
By the way, I just want to say that, radar, if you don't know what that is, radar stands for radio. So it's just radio signals that are being bounced off the objects to image them. So the ball, that's the floating S-band that you have in Hawaii. And then the guy on the right, that's the one that they want to build. That's what it looks like, the land-based one that they want to build here. Okay. Oops. Sorry, let me finish the video. Here we go. Hope I didn't screw it up. Oh, sorry.
The United States from a limited long-range missile threat. The military has deployed a national missile defense system called Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, or GMD. Here are 5 key things to know about GMD. 1. GMD uses interceptors to attempt to destroy an incoming missile traveling roughly 15,000 miles per hour, or about 20 times faster than the speed of sound. The interceptors are traveling at about the same speed. It's like trying to hit a bullet with a bullet. 2. GMD has a failing testing record. Since deployment in 2004, only 4 out of 10 tests have fully destroyed the target. That's especially bad because the tests are highly scripted for success. The timing of the test and other information that no enemy would provide are known in advance. 3. GMD is really expensive. The total cost of the system is estimated to be almost $70 billion,
Crazy.
and that cost will almost certainly increase. 4. Missiles are vastly cheaper and easier to build than interceptors. To overwhelm even a fully functional GMD system, our adversaries could just build more missiles. That's a recipe for a new arms race, with the offense always having an advantage over the defense. 5. Despite the poor results, Some lawmakers want to expand GMD without first proving that it works. Before buying any more interceptors, Congress should ask 2 questions. Do they work? And do we need them?
I have to say representatives are in support of it, all of them. Tulsi and the others, they're all in support of it. They voted for this. I don't think they understand it. That's why I'm so glad that there's some state representatives here tonight, representation, so you can learn more about it, because it doesn't work. And let me tell you, even if it did work, it would be bad for space, it would be bad for Earth. If you blow up a nuclear weapon in space, guess what's going to happen?
Follow.
You're going to make an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, and you're also going to create a lot of debris that can destroy the satellites. And what goes up must come down. It's going to spray and rain on the Earth. Now, I don't know how many of you remember in 1962 when they detonated a nuclear weapon above Hawaii. Anybody remember that in 1962? I don't know if we're old. It's called Starfish Prime. You guys remember? And they blew it up. It was over Johnson Island, and it knocked out all the lights on Oahu, right? And so, because of the electromagnetic pulse. And it also destroyed the satellites. In 1962, there's only like 10 satellites, and it destroyed 7 of them. So after this detonation, which was just a test, they signed the Limited Test Ban Treaty, which said no more testing in space. But then they continued to test underground, of course, in Mother Earth. Oops, I went backwards. So war in space, and even just, you know, any missile defense that is in space is going to trash space. So this is our beautiful Earth, a beautiful spaceship, trashed. So we already have a debris problem. We don't need to create more by having weapons in space. Okay, so let's get back to the story. Since 2001, 9/11, since the deployment, about $200 billion have been spent in missile defense. And these are all the locations around the world where missile defense, United States missile defense is deployed. It's we and our allies through NATO, the National North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that is the military gang in Europe that we're the leaders of. Anyway, so guess what? A lot of that $200 billion has been spent right here in Hawaii. So I just want to do a brief survey about what missile defense systems already exist in Hawaii. And this is going to be really sad, so we should have like a sing-along song afterwards. We all know about the Pacific Missile Range Facility. It's in Hawaii, Barking Sands. It's a gigantic facility, and it's for testing. Although they're talking about, in fact, it's required by the last year's defense review that they study making this an active base and putting interceptors on it and doing Aegis Ashore and all this stuff. So they're looking at making it operational. I do have to say that your Senate and congressional representatives are against making it operational because they know that it would be complete anarchy here. There's Aegis. These are the Navy ships that launch nuclear weapons. This is Boeing's profit. They're $42 billion each.
Damn.
And they're
Really?
in Hawaii. And the missiles are millions of dollars, of course. Of course, there's Aegis Ashore. It's like taking the system from the ship and putting it ashore. And it's just being tested, but they're talking about operationalizing it. And that's $2.5 billion. This is what it looks like. I'm going to post all this stuff, and you can friend me on Facebook if you want to get this PowerPoint. It's all available. There's another system called THAAD, which sounds like a nerd boy. I don't even, theater, something. And there's one of those systems, and it's $3 billion per system, and we sell these all over the world. And now Russia's competing with us, because you know the president is the main pimp of the Pentagon. He goes out and he sells these to Saudi Arabia, and they're just selling the systems to Japan. The Aegis Ashore they just sold to Japan, and they put a THAAD in South Korea. And it makes all these places targets, and local folks are fighting it, but it's just a juggernaut, as you know. That's Lockheed Martin's profit. Then the C-band, X-band Raider, they've spent $10 billion on this so far, and it doesn't work at all. Why? Because its range of what it can scan is so limited, like they would never be able to really track an incoming missile, especially if they're using those countermeasures, right? If you're ever talking to someone from the Missile Defense Agency during the EIS rounds, just say countermeasures, dude, it's a boondoggle. And so that, again, this is like the whole idea, like you have all these backup systems. If the interceptor doesn't get it, then the THAAD could get it, or the Aegis could get it, or they could just get a lot more profits by building all these systems that don't work, and never will. So, yeah, so, you know, one other thing that Hawaii has is it is also monitoring the space debris. So, on Maui, on Haleakala, sorry if I said that wrong. And also on Kaena Point. So here on Kaena Point, they have the Air Force Space Wing already operational that's tracking space debris. Now, just last week, they announced, the Air Force announced that they're going to put their Space Command, and this is, you know, there's a whole nother talk about Space Force, because Trump comes up and says, we need a new branch of the military called Space Force. But the Air Force has been doing Space Force for a long, long time. So it's a real struggle, and hopefully if there's somebody else elected, we might have a chance of just killing it before it gets deployed. Because we do not need another branch of the military. Do we?
No.
No, it's a waste of money. So anyway, this is a whole nother something to go into. I didn't have a chance to prepare for this, and it's too much information already, but this is a problem. And why do they need the Space Force? Because they want to they want to launch like 5,000 satellites in space so they can watch for all the missiles. So why do you even need the radar here in Hawaii if they're going to do this? So they're going to have hypersonic planes, and they're going to have weapons in space. These boys have been lusting after weapons in space since Reagan with his Star Wars, you know. It's just this, it's a disease of the mind. I say it's a cancer of the soul. That to be so obsessed with weapons of mass destruction. It's just, it doesn't make any, what is wrong with these people? When Lynette and we drove up to Kaena Point, I looked at Makua Valley, I said, what is wrong with these people? Who could fly in this valley and drop a bomb? Sorry, I'm getting pissed off. We're not with children anymore. Anyway, so this is going to blow your mind right now, okay? So I'm kind of a super nerd, and I love watching congressional hearings with these monsters from the Pentagon. So I happen to be in Hawaii. How many people were here for the false alarm? All of us, yeah. So I was in two-step on Big Island. I came out of the water, and everyone's freaking out, and I just went back in. I was like, so get this. I'm going to read this to you. So the brother on the left is the head of missile defense, okay? And his name is Senator Greaves. And this is General Greaves. And so this was a congressional session that was last September, and I got the transcription from C-SPAN, my best friend. And someone asked this question, so listen, this blows me away. What are your biggest challenges in terms of getting a space-based sensor and a space-based interceptor system deployed? Greaves. Actually, if you had asked me this question a year ago, my answer would have been very different than it is today. It has become much less of a challenge to convince just about anyone. And when you integrate in the unfortunate situations such as what happened over in Hawaii with the false alarm, the American public, at a minimum, the folks that were on the island, got a sense of what it feels like to not know what's going to happen next. While they were feeling that, the National Command Authority had full knowledge that it was not a threat. So today, it's a whole lot easier. And the challenge, if you will, is making that cultural shift, that shift in thinking between a few years ago and today. And I would tell you, it's orders of magnitude easier today than it was then, because it's very visible what that threat has done and what we know what's coming, and that we've got time.
That's what they did. Yep.
I think it was fake.
Yep.
All right. On purpose. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but, I mean, come on. I watched this and I was like, what? He's like, no problem now, because people in Hawaii are afraid. So, not only the weapons, but you're being weaponized. You know, like your fear is being weaponized. It is messed up. There is no threat. All right, so I know, like, la 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 la. That's my happy dance. All right, we gotta bring it in. Okay, so there is the beast they want to build, Lockheed Martin. And they're like, where are we gonna build it? Let's look at Oahu. So all the blood there is all the current military installations. And I just like showing this picture because it's so atrocious. How much, I mean, you all know this, like how much military occupations currently happen on this island.
Yeah.
So they picked 2 locations. Kuakala Bridge.
Kuakala.
Say it?
Kuakala.
Yeah, that. I'm working on it. And Kahuku training.
All right, Kahuku.
Yeah. So this is a Cayena Point satellite. There's already an installation here. I was talking to Kyle Kajihiro. Everybody know Kyle.
I know Kyle.
He's an activist. He's awesome, and he's a military expert. I was talking to him the other day, and he said, he goes, they're going to put it on Cayena Point. The other one's just they have to have 3. They have to propose 3.
3 sites.
So they just had to pick the other 2. But this one is already, developed, so it's probably going to go here. And this is a picture we took the other day, and you can also see the balls that are up there already, like Sparky talked about. This is the signage that's at the end of the road. I took a picture of this, and it's kind of interesting. I think that the place they're talking, because it's hard to tell, is here in this place, right up here. And they took the balls off, I guess, the picture. They took the balls off the picture, so this must be DLNR made the sign. They took the balls off.
Took the balls off.
They deballed, they castrated the
Balls.
Hey, that was a fun story. And this is what they look like. There's I Googled for days to try to get as much imagery as I could to take a look at what the site looks like. That one came in again. All right, so how many people were present last year when they, besides the Sparky, and attended one of the EIS MDA? Oh, several people. Okay, when we're going to have a conversation after this. Man, we'd all love to hear what you experienced. Sparky told me that what they have is like they have all the informational desks, and there's not someone speaking. You like walk around. Yeah. Well, Kyle was talking
like open house
at this conference the other day, and they said they do that intentionally to so you can't disrupt them. And then he was saying that at another time there was an EIS meeting that activists came with megaphone and just started shouting and disrupted the entire thing. So, it's like you have to take over the ridiculousness of these meetings. Anyway, so what they've done so far is they've made a preliminary EIS, and I'm going to just state what they're going to have in the final, and that should be done sometime next year. And then they also did an archaeological survey to survey the ridge in order to look at what would be impacted by doing the drilling, because they had to do drilling, soil testing. And all of these things on the piece of paper I gave you, I have links to everything I'm talking about. So you could download this, it's all available for free, and read it yourself. It's really interesting. And of course, guess who signed off on the preliminary EIS? Suzanne Case. All right. So, and they just go into a lot of information that you can read yourself. Here's the archaeological survey, which they found 2 sites that were of significance. There's a Heiau up there, and another site that looks like a Heiau. I am not a cultural practitioner, and that's not my expertise, and certainly you can speak more to this and the significance of that ridge. And there are just some pictures. It's called the APE, which is the area of potential impact, and so that's the green spot. It would be 160 acres, 100 to 160 acres. The building would be 8 feet tall by 8 feet wide.
8 stories.
8 stories, yeah, not 8 feet. Yeah, that's teeny tiny. 8 stories. So some more pictures. The archaeological survey is actually really wonderful to read. It's like a synopsis of the history and culture of the entire area. So I highly recommend it. And this is the sites here. This is site 188. That's the Heiau, and this is something else. They weren't sure. They just did a walkabout. You can see this is one of the bubbles right there. I don't know what the yellow stuff is. They probably had to mark that out because it was classified. So just some more shots. And this is actually looking. To the north. And the sites again. This is the Heiau. It's the Mokaena Heiau. And it's a wind Heiau from what I read in the report. And you can see how it's landscaped and raked. And I guess there's a fence around it to keep the cattle out of it. And this is a schematic of it. So there's lots, all this is in the archaeological survey, which I recommend everyone reading. And so the second site is Kahuku, because that's the Army facility, and it's the home of the Red Raiders, I guess, where they train. It's also a former Nike site, so they had Nike missiles at this same area. I think that if they were to build it there, but again, I think it's just because they had to pick 3 sites that this would be the area, but it's more remote than Cayena Point. So, and again, there's the island. So I just have to say that Amy Caruso is in the house tonight, and where are you? I just want to applaud. There she is, everybody. Congresswoman representing, it's state representative. That's your next step. No, but you represent the district up by Kahuku? Okay, all right. Very ignorant. But she wrote a letter, which is in the article I wrote, and I was going to read a little bit of it because she wrote the Missile Defense Agency and called them out on doing the drilling because they wanted to drill several, 8 inches by 100 feet into the anae to test. And so I just got to read like this. I have a quote here. I got to grab it.
Thank you for the letter, Amy.
Thank you for the letter.
Amy.
And it's in my article. And here it is. Because it matters that you wrote this. She wrote, I'm concerned about the continued loss of Hawaii's land for military purposes. Currently, our state is facing a housing shortage of over 60,000 units. Our homeless population remains the highest in the nation per capita. Most importantly, Native Hawaiians remain alienated within their homeland, as evidenced by the recent demonstrations on Mauna Kea regarding the proposed 30-meter telescope. The Hawaiian community is rightly seeking to redress their historic disenfranchisement and dispossession from their ancestral lands. One must ask, when it comes to militarization of the anae, when will it be enough? So that's really important. Okay, so where are we now? The final EIS is supposed to be done in 2020, and after it's released, there will be another round of comments. The plan is to start building in 2021 and deploy the radar in 2023. It will become operational in 2023. What can we do now? Organize, prepare for the final EIS. So this is from the EIS, and this is what they said. The studies anticipated to be included in the EIS are air and noise impacts, airspace impact, because no airplane's going to be able to fly within the radar zone, right? Will mess up their instruments. Archaeological inventory survey, cultural impact assessment, economic and fiscal impacts, flora and fauna, and transportation impact analysis. And they don't really have it here, but you have to look at the health impact, the biological impact of radar. Because what they do, and I'm going to look into this too and report back to y'all, but the physics of it is that the radar is very high powered, and so they can't have a continuous beam because you would get cooked. So they pulse it. So, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year. So, and in my article, I linked to the United Nations survey of the impact of high frequency radar. So there's certainly something more to think about that. Oops, I went backwards again. And finally, some other impacts. This is really important. So they're going to have to fence it. They're going to get water, sewer, storm drainage, fire protection, roads, parking lots, sidewalks, communication, in-flight interceptors, system terminals, power plant, electrical connections, bulk fuel storage. They're going to have to pump it out. They're going to have to power it. And one of the last thing I'm going to tell you guys about is that the Hawaiian State Legislature proposed a bill, HB number 1396, this year to assist the radar by producing green power, renewable energy sources to power the radar. Where do you think they're going to get that from? Well, they're going to build a wind farm? And why not? To power the radar. So this is coming up when they come back to session. So that's something that I keep asking Amy about it. So something to watch and advocate against. So what else can we do? We can advocate for freaking diplomatic ways of solving a problem instead of just always building weapon systems.
Yeah.
It's like we're in the cave land, or I take that all back because that would be more sophisticated. It's like, seriously, it's like these boys are just stuck in the same way of trying to resolve their problems.
Exactly.
And they really believe it. They're psychotic. They're really psychotic. They really believe it. And so the thing is, they're also profiting from it. And meanwhile, the military-industrial complex, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, they're reaping all these profits, milking the taxpayer money and sucking it all off of, education, medical medicine, all the stuff that we need. PAROS is a treaty that's introduced every year into the United Nations, where every time they have the disarmament meeting. And it's introduced by China and Russia. And you know what it says? They say, let's have a treaty to prevent an arms race in space, to stop all this nonsense. And guess what 2 countries always vote no? Us, not you, the U.S. and Israel. So, pressure can be applied, not with this administration, but maybe in the future. Organize, let's talk. So, I am concluding now. I have a blog called Lynda Love On, just nobody has it but me. I invented the particle of love. It's called the Love On, because the one thing physics is missing, it has electricity, it has the nuclear force, but it doesn't have love, and that's what it needs. Love on. So go to Lynda Love On. You can read my article with all the links, and I also have articles about space, and I just want to close with my favorite Martin Luther King Jr. quote: "Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and unguided men." So I'd like to introduce my friend, Helen Jaccard, who is the captain. She's just not the captain. She's the admiral of the Golden Rule. And she's going to talk about what else we can do, and that is to join our friends in trying to disarm this planet of nuclear weapons. Helen! Oh, let me close my thing down.
Hard act to follow. I'm Helen Jaccard, and first time I heard about the Golden Rule was
There it is.
There it is. This is one of the fleet weeks we were protesting against the military bringing their big warships into our cities on the west coast of the U.S. And we just do that by putting up our sails. So our sails are very dramatic, a peace symbol and a Veterans for Peace logo. The Golden Rule Project is a national project of Veterans for Peace, so it's military veterans who have turned against war. So there's 2 tenets in the Veterans for Peace mission statement that fit in with what we're doing on Golden Rule. One is to prevent the United States from interfering overtly and covertly in the affairs of other countries. And the other is to end the arms race and reduce and ultimately eliminate nuclear weapons. So these are the 2 things that the Golden Rule Project concentrates on. And I'm going to show a little video that will talk about the history of the Golden Rule in 1958, when the boat was sailed towards the Marshall Islands via Honolulu in an attempt to just put their bodies in the way of the nuclear bomb tests that were happening in Eniwetok and Bikini Atolls. And then again in 2019, here we are again, heading for the Marshall Islands to try to talk to people about what are their struggles and how can we help spread their message to new audiences. As well as we were at Standing Rock and we were up on Mauna Kea and were so kindly received by the elders who received a message of support from Veterans for Peace and a Veterans for Peace flag to fly there so that people would know that we care about Indigenous rights and we care about colonization and to put an end to it as best we can.
Where's the boat right now?
There you go.
Good question, Ann. The boat's in Alawai Harbor, slip 638. We're going to take a little break from Alawai, and we're going to head to Kaneohe for a couple of days. We're going to go sailing with a group of ninth graders that are learning how to sail double-hulled sailing canoes.
Kanehunamoku.
Yeah, and it's Bonnie, Captain
Kahapea.
Bonnie, yeah, has one of them, and she's been teaching children how to sail them. And so we're going to teach the children how to sail Golden Rule also. So it's going to be a really fun day on
Awesome.
Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're bringing Golden Rule back to Alawai Harbor, so it's 638. And you can come visit. We have an open house planned November 23rd from 3:30 till 5:30 p.m. But you can contact me if you go on our website, vfpgoldenrule.org. My phone number and our email address is everywhere, and you'll reach me with a message if you want to come see the boat, or maybe you might want to arrange to go sailing with us. Then I'd be happy to put your name on a list and contact you when we have a schedule. It's a sailboat, it's weather, and it's finding crew. So sometimes we can sail, sometimes we can't. So I'll try and keep in touch with you if you contact me. So I'm going to show a little video about the history of the Golden Rule, and it'll talk a lot about what happened in Honolulu in 1958. So here we go.
As soon as this. A complete week.
All vessel with a big mission. We have to use the Golden Rule while we're here to show our resistance to militarism.
One of the 5 principles, founding principles of Veterans for Peace, is to end the arms race and ultimately seek the elimination of nuclear weapons. This boat is an icon for that because it represents a different way of thinking about how to do protest.
It's not very loud.
Really, it's a dream come true for me. It's a dream come true to be able to be a part of this movement that began before I was born.
August 6th, 1945, the first atomic bomb ever to be used against people was dropped on Hiroshima. And August 9th, again, on Nagasaki, a different kind of bomb was dropped. At the time, Albert Bigelow was in the Navy. He was a 30-year Navy captain. He was in Pearl Harbor at the time these bombs were dropped. And it was so horrific to him that he quit his Navy commission a month before he could have retired with full pay out of protest of the dropping of the bombs. His family, a Quaker family, later hosted the Hiroshima Maidens, who came over to New York for plastic surgery, reconstructive surgery, so that they would be in less pain and lead a more normal life. The United States continued to develop newer, bigger, better bombs, and there were a whole series of atomic bomb tests in the Marshall Islands. They were producing elements that don't exist in nature. One of those elements is strontium-90. It acts very much like calcium, and it was blowing all over the planet. And because it acts like calcium, it was getting into our babies' teeth and bones as they were growing. They were getting into mother's milk and cow's milk, and women were testing their milk for radiation before they would feed it to their children. So because of all of this and the major concern about radiation poisoning in our atmosphere, a group of Quakers decided that they wanted to do something about it. And they started the way you would normally start to try to change something. They wrote letters to the editor. They wrote op-ed pieces. They demonstrated in the streets. They wrote to the president. They tried to call their members of Congress. They did everything feasible to try to stop the nuclear bomb testing. Ultimately, they weren't successful then, and they decided they needed to escalate in their tactics. So they decided to get a boat and sail it into the testing zone and just put their lives away of the nuclear bomb test.
Wow.
So Albert Bigelow bought the Golden Rule and sailed it out of San Pedro near Los Angeles. We want to help the public understand that there are other ways to deal with potential conflicts with other countries than to declare war or even threaten war, or even for our country to be constantly preparing for war. We spend over half of the IRS income tax dollars on war.
What's happening is that all the nuclear powers are developing their nuclear weapons, and the U.S. has recently committed itself to $1 trillion over the next 30 years to modernize and actually create some new nuclear weapons that are smaller, more tactical, more usable, to make the possibility of a nuclear war even more thinkable is what's happening right now. They maintain that they need nuclear weapons for their whole security strategy, but you know, what kind of strategy is that? Mutually assured destruction. And the very real threat of a nuclear war between North Korea and the U.S. with our President Donald Trump threatening to totally destroy North Korea. Of course, North Korea promising to respond in kind. So it's a very, very dangerous situation right now.
They meet each other. I've seen them.
As we sail on our voyages, we've had 3 years now, mostly on the West Coast. And we're always running into people who are either new people on the crew of the Golden Rule or on the sister ship, Phoenix and Hiroshima. So there's a lot of history there. We run into like Quaker activists who say they went to their first demonstration when they were 7 years old, when their parents took them to a demonstration to free the crew of the Golden Rule.
So they got to Honolulu, they resupplied, and they were headed to the Marshall Islands. Well, the Coast Guard cutter brought them back.
And I ended up putting the numbers on trial and convicting them of a number of violations that were ultimately thrown out. So that attracted nationwide attention and worldwide attention ultimately.
During their trial in Honolulu, another boat appeared at the same dock, 2 slips down, the Phoenix of Hiroshima, captained by Dr. Earl Reynolds, who had just spent 3 years studying the effects of radiation on children in Hiroshima. And they heard the story, and they attended the trial. And they were so moved by the bravery of these men that were going to put their lives in danger to stop this terrible arms race. They decided that they would take the baton, they would go to the Marshall Islands and put their own lives in the way. And when they got into the atomic testing zone, the Coast Guard caught up with them and arrested them and sent them back to Honolulu for trial.
What that protest started was a worldwide protest against nuclear atmospheric testing. It resulted ultimately in the signing of the Partial Test Ban Treaty of 1963. It also spawned the founding of Greenpeace and other activist organizations.
Bigelow sold the boat, the Golden Rule. After the Golden Rule was sold in Honolulu, nobody heard from it for decades. And then in 2010, she was a derelict boat floating around in Humboldt Bay, and she sank.
Humboldt Bay, wow.
The boat disappeared, but we found it in 2009 in Humboldt Bay.
Leroy Zerlang had his crew pull her up into his boatyard. He was going to burn her. So she faced a watery grave, then she faced a fiery grave, and then Humboldt Bay Veterans for Peace and Quakers showed up and they said, Leroy, we think we want to restore this boat.
Right on.
Could you give us a year in your boatyard? And we want to rebuild this boat. They relaunched it June 15th, 2015. Then we took off July 20th. We stopped in 10 different ports of call. Our second seasonal voyage, 2016, we went all over the waters of Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia, where we were able to give 23 educational presentations.
We've been specifically sailing in support of the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which just passed last month or so, 122 to 1 in the United Nations General Assembly.
Awesome.
So it's a very exciting development.
if you love this planet, you will sign this treaty. Nuclear weapon has always been immoral. Now they are also illegal.
I'm really excited about the Nobel Peace Prize being given to the International Coalition to Abolish Nuclear Weapons.
Yeah.
So what can you do to help stop the possibility of nuclear war? What we're doing about it is through education. You can join our team. You could be an author, a speaker. You can donate. You can get involved with helping organize events and helping other people.
Well, the original mission of the Golden Rule was to take bold action to stop nuclear bomb testing, to stop nuclear war. So we've decided to head for the Pacific, where the action is at this time. We're planning to go to Hawaii, where the crew originally went to Honolulu, and they're also facing real threat and fears of nuclear war in Hawaii right now, where they just resumed a whole statewide alarm system for the event of incoming nuclear weapons. Then we're going to go on to the Marshall Islands, where the original crew was headed. The Marshall Islands continues to suffer from the results of all the nuclear bombing that was done. There's a very high cancer rate there. From there, we would head to Guam, to Okinawa, and it's from there that bombers are flying over the Korean Peninsula. Then we want to go to Japan no later than 2020, when they're going to be commemorating the 75th anniversary of the horrific U.S. nuclear bombings of the civilian populations in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If possible, we may sail the Golden Rule right to the Korean Peninsula with our message of peace. It's time to sail this little boat across the Pacific once again,
Yeah.
to put ourselves in the way of nuclear war.
I love that movie.
Yeah. Can we get, is that on YouTube?
It's on our website. We haven't put it on YouTube because we're still in film festivals. We won the short documentary award at the Guam International Film Festival.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think you want to open it up to questions?
Yeah, because people know where the boat is and they know how to reach us. Everyone has a brochure. Inside your trifold brochure, it shows where we intend to go. Like I said, the Marshall Islands, and we've talked to some people of the Marshall Islands. They are really looking forward to seeing us. The people of Guam were just visited by Jerry Condon, who's the president of Veterans for Peace, my partner. And then there's a group from Okinawa that's supporting us, Veterans for Peace in Okinawa and Veterans for Peace in Japan, and other people in Japan are really excited to see the Golden Rule and welcome them in time for the 75th anniversary of the dropping of the bombs there. So, there's a lot we can talk about, a lot of directions the conversation can go from here. But both Lynda Williams and I are very interested in nuclear disarmament. I'd like to make a little announcement, though. This past week, the Honolulu County Council just passed a resolution to encourage the U.S. federal government to ratify the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
Yeah.
Well, it was Debbie Kimball, I believe, but it was also Hawaii Peace and Justice and the Honolulu Friends meeting, the Quakers here, that encouraged those legislators to pass that resolution. And of course, the resolution also welcomes the Golden Rule to Hawaii. Yes?
Do we have a Veterans for Peace chapter in Oahu?
Yes, we do have a Veterans for Peace chapter in Oahu. So if you are a veteran, and you are against war, then join Veterans for Peace.
Veteran?
What you do is you go to a different website, veteransforpeace.org, and you fill out their little form, and I think it's $40 a year, and they put you in touch with the local organizations so that you can start going to their meetings.
Sign right here.
You have some forms?
Well, we will. And is Vets for Peace having an event?
I'd like to introduce you to the one and only Anne Ryan.
Thank you very much. I'm a retired Army colonel and a former U.S. diplomat, and I resigned in 2003 in opposition to the war on Iraq.
Right on.
Since then, I've been working with all sorts of peace and social justice groups around Oahu and various places in Hawaii and also around the country and around the world. But yes, we do have an event. Tomorrow night is Armistice Day. Tomorrow is Armistice Day. It's widely advertised as Veterans Day, but it's actually Armistice. The end of war was what it was all about on November 11th, 11/11/11, at the end of World War I. So we're bringing back Armistice Day, and we are having an event for Vets for Peace, and we'll be talking about the Golden Rule tomorrow night, Church of the Crossroads at 5:30. It's a little potluck, and we'd love to have any of you all that are all the way over in Honolulu to come and join us at 5:30 tomorrow night. And if anybody is a vet or want to be an ally with us, leave me your name, and I can get back in touch with you about our local Veterans for Peace organization. Thank you.
And if you're on Facebook, you should follow her because she's got her thumb on the pulse of activism in the whole world, and you're a mighty girl. Okay.
And we also send out newsletters, both physical and electronic. We're going to pass this around. If you want to keep up with us, you might want to put your name on there. And if you're a veteran and you'd like to join Veterans for Peace, why don't you put a star next to your name or join VFP or something on there so that we can contact you and Ann can help you get signed up to be a member.
Can we just leave it up here? Or
Let's pass it around.
you know, okay, pass it. Go ahead, pass it around.
Oh, this is true. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace, and you know what? I'm not a veteran.
I'm a veteran for peace.
You're a veteran peace activist.
I'm not a veteran. Can I just, yeah, okay. I just heard some news over here that can you speak up about what you said about there's going to be a Missile Defense Agency speaker?
Not only neighborhood board meeting on the 19th. There's a meeting at the library right here, not only, and the MBA will be there, just like at YNI.
That's it. That's not on their website, so that's something. It's interesting. Like, yeah. Has anyone else heard about that? You heard about that, Amy? That they're going to be there?
They came to our neighborhood board meeting this past Tuesday.
What? What?
Yeah. Yeah. So Don Chang and they came to do a little presentation on this proposed, well, not proposed, but the site of Kuokala, the tracking system. So we're all there. Tim Riley.
What? And what'd they say? Did they do the tables again?
No, they came to our neighborhood board meetings.
And what did they say?
Yeah. Tim, why don't you say something?
Come
Hello,
speak in.
I'm Tim Riley, Vice Chair of the Waianae Neighborhood Board. Who is on the neighborhood board, and Josiah Jury is here tonight from the neighborhood board as well. Basically, they came and gave us an overview of what they plan for Cannon Point up top. And they described they had already started some of the drilling.
Right, the testing, the soil testing.
And so that was something that was unbeknownst to a lot of us already. And so it appears that things have progressed further than we thought. And so, in my humble opinion, if we're going to be active, let's not become kahuku. Let's get active now while we have the opportunity to affect change before we have to throw our bodies in the streets and get arrested. We can affect change early and now. So this is the time. Don't let it sneak up on us, guys. Thank you.
But this is, they don't put this on their website. They don't put this, they don't announce it. This is stealth. They're coming in.
They gave us just a small window of notice to our chair, Sharpoe, whose dad happens to be here tonight. And she was able to put it on the agenda, but it was, in my humble opinion, it was rather stealth.
That's just messed up. How can we, how can we like?
So Linda,
Yeah.
Poki went up
Okay.
and he testified too.
Okay.
Share what you said, Poki.
We can drag this up.
Check, check.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Aloha kako apau.
Aloha.
My name is Ko Elton Magalanes, aka Poking. I represent Waianae Hunters Association. Also, well, myself, Mikey Eli, was interviewed as part of the cultural assessment. So Mikey provided insight as a hunter. I gave perspective of the hunter as well as a cultural practitioner. So there's the historic sites up there is actually, it's multiple. And they only went highlight the two over here, but there's multiple. It's a part of a huger complex that they don't see. This is Kokala. This is the sun worshiping temple of Kali worship. This was one of the practices of Kokala. So, and if you look at a lot of these sites, how many? Wait, before I get into this, how many? Show of hands. How many of you guys actually go up there and hunt up there? Okay. A couple of you guys, maybe, okay, a lot of you guys, just for familiarize you guys yourself. In order to get up in this area, you need four-wheel drive, okay? It's not an easy terrain to get up in. So I know exactly the area that we get. I get hunters still contacting me today and observation of the drilling. And I don't think they're doing regular soil samples. And what we hunters is suspecting is that they're drilling for water. They're looking for dike water to provide this. Okay, that's what we know that in the particular areas where they're drilling, we know you have water in the area. So we're concerned about that. So it's not just regular soil testing. They're looking for water. Okay. So that's one of our concerns, and then also the fact that they're going to be occupying, occupying 160 plus acres of our hunting ground. This is going to affect our hunting areas. Okay, we utilize these areas. Now they came out to the community, to the neighborhood board meeting, and they said that that no any cultural significance or areas in the area were a big different.
Yeah.
Myself as also Kupa'aina of the Waianae Mokolinu descendants of Koamana and Ahapukani local. I can tell you for a fact, we have ohana burials, choke ohana burials in that area. It's a huge complex. They just see the surface stuff. We have kupuna areas, so I'm in the process. I gotta go write one letter to the chair in the Oahu Island Burial Council. Once upon a time ago, I served as a Oahu Island Burial Council for Waianae Moku, and I did have a grand tour of the facility. So I am familiar with some of these areas that they're talking about. And I know what they get up there, and I know what they're looking for. And what a lot of the public doesn't know, if you haven't been hunting in that area, you don't know what's in there. Okay, we've been on down, we dropped down into Mokuleia side, and I tell you this much, that they get unknown roads and unknown facilities in that area. Nike get one little installation on that mountain already. So they already had started a plan a long time ago. So just letting you guys know. And I have on, we even came upon this unknown, we don't know this, but this unknown paved road in the back Mokuleia side. So I'm assuming that this military actually went build one underground bunker, the other end of Kaniana Cave on the other side. They found them and they're utilizing them. But you guys gotta know, okay, if you're not hunting, you don't know, okay, get all of these unknown, these pockets with stuff inside, okay? We don't know what it is, but we know the mean kind of operations up there, okay? So, you know, we had, you know, hundreds of native species thriving up there. And another thing that was revealed to me, we have one of the workers up there actually when disclosed and kind of brought to light that what the military is doing right now, decommissioning a lot of facilities over there. So so the lease is expiring up there. So this is just another way of the military just occupying more and expanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will have a detrimental effect on not just the environment, okay, but it's, you know, it's a big disruptor. Those of you guys that know our practice, and you guys know the Mo'olelo of Lynda Williams, okay, this is one big obstruction. This is right directly in the path. Okay, right on the outer side of this complex is the outer end of Kalena path. Okay, that takes you all the way right across Kala, and you can follow that path all the way into Evamoku. Okay, so this is, I don't think DNR actually have any choice. Okay, if you follow the money, if you look into all of this stuff, it goes down to Ige. Ige is pushing this. So who is what's her name? Suzanne Case. Her boss. She's getting direct orders from Ige. Okay, this is TMT. All of these things is all part of this thing. You think the new telescope on the mountain? That's, to me, that's what weapon. That's what they're not telling us. Okay, it's all part of this warfare business that they're doing. Okay, like I said, as one hunter, we get one better perspective of the Aina. When you're up in the shed, okay, you can see the Aina, you can see the disruption, you can see that certain things don't belong over there. Yeah, but these things is happening under the nose of the community. If me and Mikey never bring them forward and bring this news to the community, that it would have gone. They was trying to keep this out of the knowledge of the community for the longest time. Because when we participated in this interview, I think this was back in July, and we gave it the benefit of the doubt that it was going to come out of the shadows and enlighten the community about this project. But no, they never. Okay, so that's why me and Mikey felt, hey, God, we got to bring this to the community, or else, you know, they can get so far up in this thing. There's no stopping them right now. Okay. So even in that interview, they would ask me, I think one of the last questions they would ask, oh, what can we do to lessen the impacts of Kukala? And my answer was no build them. No build them at all.
Yeah.
And as far as protesting this thing, unless you guys know how to build a human chain across the sky, they're gonna fly everything in. Okay? You go through that complex. It's not that easy. Okay, so you cannot build one, human chain in front of the MP shack. This is as far as you can go. Okay, you get past that gate, even as a hunter, you gotta register everything. It's a process at the gate. Then they escort you all the way through the complex. Three different gates that they gotta, they escort you through. These big, heavy. Okay, so this thing is not really easy. Then they're gonna escort you to the end of the facilities. Escort you to the G Trail. Then you gotta get 4-wheel drive, and you're gonna travel for about maybe 2.5 miles to 2 miles, and then you're gonna have that break off in a trail. It says Kukalak Trail. Okay, we've been hunting that area quite a few times already, and not just back there, but way up in the back Peacock Flats, and you can see that their facility is freaking huge. Okay, and a lot of that stuff is underground. Okay, we see stuff in the most weirdest areas. We find unknown roads. We try to look them up on GPS. The thing don't register. Not even clicking on the garments. Nothing. Okay, so they get all kind, secret back caves back there. Okay, I know they get fallout shelters for them, and that's my concern. They look at it, just like I said back at the community meeting. They're putting the carriage before the horse. They're gonna build all of these facilities. Yeah, and not even addressing the citizens, the needs of the citizens. So they don't care nothing about us. They care about their money maker, their warmongering, because war generates money. We all know that. Yeah, but they're putting us in the crosshairs and affecting all our resources and affecting my practices, my cultural practices. And then when I holler, then they're disrupting that pathway for jump over into Akua.
Yeah.
And so I get big problems with all of this. So what we're going to do, how we're going to protest this, I don't know. But as hunters, we already know what we're going to do. We're going to engage. They're going to build, and we're going to pick off guys. They're in our territory. We're going to pick them off. I don't care. That's how crazy we is. We don't have to use just that trail, that Jeep trail for get up in the back there. We get back trails coming in from Mokolea we can use. Get back trails we can come in from Makaha, jump over into Keawe. But we're crazy like that. And if we have to fight and lay our lives down, we makaka already. So, I don't know about, human chains and protests. I don't know nothing about that. But I don't believe in any of that. All I know that these things can take up any of these resources anymore. So how are you guys, if you guys like jump on the trail with us, and just, I don't know. But I tell you this much, we land in this area, we all gone, we all wiped out. These guys will be heavily protected. They get the facilities on the ground. Yeah? But that's how they kept a law, they're safe on the ground. But where us, we don't want nothing, no protection. They're not talking about building infrastructure or facilities to protect the citizens. So you know where their mind and their heart at. It ain't about protecting citizens. Okay? So this is have a law, and how we're going to engage this thing, I don't know. But I know, as hunters, we ain't going to allow this. They already think this is the last of the frontiers for us hunters. Okay? Sorry, Auntie, I never really catch that last part on what we're going to do, sell the boat in front of Cayenne and make what's up. But I don't know. But me, I'd rather just freaking, let's still come in from the back trail and start picking off construction workers. That's me. That's just me. Okay? I don't know, but if you're seeing that this is not one, no more cultural significance get choked. See, the thing about it is that I get stuck. I can talk about the EV, but I am a family couple. Our family members, we are the family couple. We can't even point at them. We can't even call out their name. So when they ask the State Department, so you gotta verify, you gotta add, you gotta, who is the name of the kupuna, who is the family kupuna, and where the barrels say. I ain't gonna tell you, we're on the couple. We cannot say that kind of stuff. And that's what, military and the state agencies don't understand. And we hold held to a high standard, or else we get more kapiko, and we not gonna be worthy enough for leap off of Kayana.
Yeah.
So, how we gonna figure out this one? I just said a time, we gotta pound and make sure our state leaders, would advocate against this team. I've been put in opposition for the longest time. With all of this, military is crazy. Okay, I like to see some of these areas, start opening up if anything. But Apukala, you're planning we're gonna be losing. It's not just 160 acres. We're gonna lose everything. Once they tap, like I said, we know they're not doing soil samples. That's not soil sample drills. They're looking for water. And you're going to find them. They keep drilling. They're going to find them. So I'm concerned about that. That's what I got to say. Hello.
Thanks, brother. Hey.
So I am the Senator Shimukuro is here as well. And I know we're both struggling with this. And I don't think that there is an easy answer. The reason these projects are moving so quickly is that there seems to be consensus, at least in the building in which I work. It's hard to find allies, actually. And you saw that when legislators were asked point blank, what's your position on TMT? Right? So this is a similar kind of situation. And I think there's even less knowledge about it. There's less discussion about it. I'm looking forward to that neighborhood board meeting because I think that it'll be an opportunity for community members to be heard. I think that it's been really easy to silence the community because the military has been getting quote-unquote community input, and we sense, even in those conversations, that it doesn't matter, right? That they're just checking a box. And so I think that, I understand the frustration, and I also understand that move to physical action because they are cutting off other channels. And I think that the route that the folks out in Kukuku are taking with nonviolent action and Hapu Aloha on the Mauna, I embrace that. Like, those are the strategies that I think are powerful and have the potential for long-term change, but I also think that, you know, we're in a really challenging moment, and I just want to say, I don't have an answer, but I'm willing to be an ally, a vessel for the work that you want done at the Capitol.
Yo.
Anyone else from the community?
One quick thing I'd
Yeah.
like to add. During our neighborhood board meeting recently, I wanted to test the waters and find out what was going to be taught to us, what manaa we were going to get. And so I asked one question, and only one question, and that is, would this make us a first strike target? The answer was no. And so that told me everything I needed to know, because we all know it would make us a first strike target.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to believe anything else they would say from then on out. And the people I represent, my beloved Waianae Coast people, we already have a hard time believing what we're told because of years and years of lies. And here it is, a white dude asking a white chick, and I'm getting lied to. So I get why we don't have the trust level. Something else I wanted to point out that I found very interesting, thank you for your manaa tonight, and that was the pulses coming to that. We have one of the largest albatross breeding grounds in the world right there. How is that going to affect? And the reason I bring that up is we have to fight this on many levels. That's a Sierra Club level. That's something we can bring other people into to fight. And so we don't need to rely on just one level. We have to access all the levels we possibly can. And this is one of them. Get the bird lovers on them. I'm from Lime Street. I'm gangsta. Let's do it.
I made the commitment to have my organization, Global Network, write letters to the legislature. I don't know what else, and that's something that I could do.
I just have one thing to say, and that is that they have more guns than you do. And so, picking people off, so you're talking about other human beings, right? We all have a revulsion to killing. And the military helps you get past that revulsion. That's what they're good at, and that's what they're for. So let's not bring the wrath of the giant U.S. military-industrial complex down on us. Let's work in dozens of other ways to bring attention to the issue, and let's target the policymakers rather than the employees who are carrying out these policies and are trying to do a job that they don't know is evil.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I'm Auntie Kathy Alana. I just wanted to share a little bit of history and kind of sanction that the killing card, because we don't need guns to kill. We can play them to death. So, I mean, we do have other practices that are not really talked about, like Fokiki said. So, but Kapolaloha is there right now, so we're not going to discuss that part, but just to give you some hope that nothing is impossible when you have people that are dedicated to do what they need to do. First of all, we don't have to worry about the Koreans. They're not a problem. Why would a dictator who loves money kill off the people that's in Honolulu that sends them money? There are things called the Korean church. Don't listen to me. I'm just this little old lady that lives in the valley. But they send money back, just like any other group that comes from another country. They love their homeland. And don't tell me that because it's the most protected border. I mean, immigrants are still coming into the United States through tunnels. I mean, if the drug traffickers can, I mean, God, people know how to do that. But the Koreans are not the problem. There are Chinese here in Hawaii right now. and they want to bring in more, and this is nothing against a race or an ethnic group, it's economics. So did anybody talk to Tiger Woods? They're trying to build this big resort to get jobs for the West Side people. You guys never even talked to him? I mean, God, even Trump, you know, brought him inside his office. What about the home values in Makaha? You don't think that the values are going to drop down because there's a radar station up there and it could be the first strike? So actually, maybe Twinkles them don't need worry about getting that property. They can have the beachfront properties with all the, you know, the nice buildings and all of that. But these are the little things that people are talking about. Did you folks know that when RIMPAC was here, that there was a brothel for young girls? Some of them are girls that they took off the street on Paikea Road. That was RIMPAC. The younger they were, the more money they get. So there's other cofactors that go into this. And the reason I'm bringing up some of these issues is that people in this community, when our military people got shot at 7-Eleven by some of our younger kids, because they were all drunk, and they didn't know how to talk pidgin, because they were just stationed here, and they literally got shot. So the people in the community work together to try and bring people together. They work very hard. And so now you're going to put these people up here that are destroying our resources, trying to dismantle the culture, and expect us to welcome them as soon as they come across Kahi Point. These people are not going to have a chance. Where are they going to shop? They're going to fly all their, what do they call those meals things that they send in?
MRIs.
MRIs.
MREs.
Okay, there are ways that we can fight. And we don't have to like you. We don't have to give you aloha. We can have kapu aloha, but that doesn't mean we have to be stepped on. We can stand up and defend cultural practices, our people. And when I say our people, I say people in Hawaii, in this area. Because pretty much over here, everybody's related to everybody else one way or another. That's our Hanai system. So the important thing, if this can happen, if you want action, I'm not one to just complain. I'm with these guys, okay? You know, I will stand behind them because they're the real deal. But the other way, and what I believe got our Lahui a little bit more elevated, was social media. So if there's any way that you can show this before the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board, it's going to not only educate people in our community. We didn't have this for our Waianae Neighborhood Board. It's nobody's fault. I mean, it's just a fact. But I had to leave. But you could, if you go back and get some of the videos, you can see the number of people that came up. Now, back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, I sat in a military civilian board with some other people's family members. We went in there when they were doing the unexploded ordinances. Okay, well guess what, guys? There's still a whole bunch. Because that really wasn't important. They just needed to practice with this machine to see if it worked. They really didn't give a damn if every single one got found or not. A member that sat on the board with me, we went, brought our cane knives and our boots, chopped down the grass, and there was a structure that had been built upon, but we called the archaeologist from the Army who GPS'd it. And he indicated that the rocks underneath could possibly be a heiau. Did they document it? I don't know. Because they're really good coming out being the experts, like they come to the Hunting Association. We never got any feedback. We asked them, what is in the poison that they're shooting over? Why? Yeah, we can't necessarily stop it at the moment, but if your animal is up there and your animal gets sick or someone else, we would at least like to know the damn chemicals so that we can take care of our people. Because there are there is the owl that can help our people. So instead of us being negative, we are proactive, although my voice doesn't sound that way at the moment. But you know, after a while, you're only human. And when you go through repetitive discrimination, if you want to call it, that's a nice word for it, but it's actually arrogance. And when you think that you're better and you can come into a community and tell them, I'm going to screw you nicely, and then on top of that, all the money in the world, they get this poor girl, just like Vanna White, and she's walking around in the kupuna in the back, cannot even see. You guys are top of the line compared to them. They couldn't even do a PowerPoint. Why? Because they never let the people see. And I'm all for women power, don't get me wrong. I'm some people's mother queen. Some people will tell you what that means. However, there was no military specialist at that meeting. Why? Because questions like our VP would have asked, they didn't want those questions being out there. You're telling me, if I understood it correctly, there's some kind of a sensor that goes off in Japan. Well, guess what, people? China and Russia have already compromised our systems. They can get into our social security. What makes you think they're not going to stop a damn sensor? And you folks have done a terrific job in bringing this forward. So if we can get this out as soon as we can, because Nanakuli tends to be sometimes a little bit more emotional, and also dedicated, and also warrior-like. Kalamai, if I'm not saying it properly, but we don't want to have the meeting shut down like it did for PVT. We want people to go in being prepared, being empowered, and being proud of who they are, so that the generations can continue with cultural practices. Mahalo.
You're welcome. I can put whatever you need up online to talk to you about.
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock? Okay.
We want to be done here by like 8:30, so we can.
Just real quick.
Can you MC this? I'm not going to shut anybody
Okay.
down.
Aloha, everyone. Good evening. I hope you folks enjoyed your meal and everything, because we can all think better when we eat. You know, as I'm listening to everybody, and I'm getting very well educated on this, Aole, first of all, to what's going on, definitely. But as I look among the crowd, I do not see our younger generation. Got to start thinking about our younger generation. Can we take this into the high schools? Can we take this information into the auditorium and have them? No. Well, somebody is saying no over there. But you know, what we gonna tell our kids when we go home? Oh, Grandma, Tutu went to a meeting. They wouldn't understand this. They would not. So what level? I'm just asking. What level of students would understand this if we was to take it into the school? I don't know. Do you guys know?
Especially ninth grade, they've got ninth graders going on the boat.
Well, they got them going on the boat. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a start. But you know, I was always like this. You know, what about our younger generation?
They care.
Yeah. You don't think they don't care?
They care.
Of course they do. But how are they going to know more about this kind of things? I'm very passionate about this. You know, I have young ones at home. All of us got young ones at home, but they don't understand. So, it's the education system. Aren't we being educated?
Yeah.
You know, anything that goes on, our kids should know, no matter what level it is. So, if they don't know, that's our bad. Because we're not sharing them. Yeah, they can go on the boat, but I think if there's a way that they can, you know, we can have it where it's simplified and understand, or you'd be surprised how smart they are. You know, you'd be surprised. how very smart they are. Mahalo, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Is there anybody else who would like to share?
I just want to know what is 84 nautical miles as in when you're out in the ocean, 84 nautical miles?
84 nautical miles is about,
Question was, what is 84 nautical miles? And do you guys want to respond on the mic?
How much?
90 to 95
Yes.
miles.
it's about 90 to 95 ordinary miles. So you take it and you divide it by 0.86.
Right, so what that, how far goes out in the ocean and it does its radiation thing or whatever it is in that? They
Oh,
have
that's
to
how
do
far-
it 84 nautical miles.
Oh.
Away from No, I was just.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide circle, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
And I do truly believe that our high school students are very smart.
Yes.
And that they will totally understand this. You just have to explain it from a more basic point than, because they're coming from less knowledge. So you have to get them up to speed. And, you know, they're very good at using the internet. So you give them a project and then you have them share what they know with the rest of the class. And pretty soon everybody's going to know what's going on.
And they probably already played video games with all this stuff in it.
Yes.
So when does not leaving till Saturday? Is there a high school class you can speak in?
Yeah, I was asking you about that.
Hello, my name is Samson Kama. My name is Samson Kama. I'm from Nanapule, Oletumakaha. I grew up on this side of the island. My father was a veteran of the Navy, and I am the product of him. So he stand up when there was the Makua people standing up against the valley being desecrated and all of that. He was with Uncle Willis. And for me, my personal opinion is I owe it to everything that can cause desecration, because Hawaii is sacred. All of Hawaii is sacred. Yeah. It doesn't matter, Mauna, where you come from, what island, we're all connected. And everything is all one. And we all should be here to oppose any desecration. Yeah. And for me, I just like following what's happening, because I see the generations coming together to stand up and rise up as one. Yeah. For us, my opposition is why we always getting things shoved down our throat and always finding out last minute. That should be done with all of our politicians, getting that information to us. So for one, failure on the system that was created to fail us, and to be waiting for those that are the 1%ers, because they don't give a rip about us, who we are, where we come from. They're going to do what they like to do, but together we can stop this. As a great big wave coming from the ocean, covering the land, they cannot stop us when we all come together. Just to let you know, kind of point there, they're going to build 2 more golf balls. I don't know if you guys know about it. I got info that they're going to put 2 more golf balls up there. Then they like put the empty air radar up there. So one of the persons that I was in contact with was Buff Crosby. Buff Crosby was the point of contact for them. Oh. So I emailed her. Guess what happened to the email? It all stopped coming in. And then find out that they're having one meeting at YNI Neighborhood Board, Nanapuli Neighborhood Board, get one. So we all gotta come together. We gotta put aside our differences and come together as one in Lokai for one goal: to save Hawaii, to save our people. So if we can do that, put that all on our side there. We come together, put our minds together, we can come up with an awesome solution to get where we want to go. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Mahalo.
Okay, I'm not sure what time it is, but just let me say this. It seems to me that we have 2 people in our audience today who are legislators, and that we should be able to depend on you to do just what was suggested. Is there information coming to you before it gets to us? And if there is, how can you get that to the community faster? But you're shaking your head, so that means you're as surprised as the rest of us? What's that? I mean, kind of like,
They don't have to go through the legislative process.
I don't know what to say. I'm talking about like education programs at the neighborhood boards. Who knows these things?
Okay, so we just found out about the neighborhood board meeting that's coming up just recently, and only through word of mouth through social media, same way you guys found out about it. And we aren't getting, nobody is informing the legislature, like we're not having any hearings about these things, to my knowledge, and nobody is reaching out to educate us even in meetings. So they're not asking for meetings about these issues at all. So we go to the EIS meetings, like the citizens, but I haven't been, and maybe it's just because I'm just a little representative. But, so, yeah.
I can share that Don Chang did ask to meet with me, and so she gave me, just to let me know that she was going to be talking to the Waianae Neighborhood Board. And so it was just kind of just to tell me, and she kind of basically said the same things that she said at the meeting that the neighborhood board had last week. You know, so that I have a question actually for the Colonel. It's so great to see you here, and all of you. Thank you so much for coming out to our community. Because you know, for us as lawmakers, you know, we're really always in the middle of so many issues, and of course, I mean, I have so much admiration and love for the veterans, for the members of the military that keep us safe, that, you know, that do so much good, so much humanitarian good around the world. And in our position, the way that things are presented to us is that these are matters of national security. And it's something that, you know, I feel it comes with a good intent. You know, they're here, they want to protect us, they want to keep us safe, they want to do all the things right. And so, you know, so I guess I'm just wondering, I'm just curious what, you know, as the Colonel, it's so great that you're here, because, you know, how can we, is there any example in other states where they've been able to find a way to, maybe a win-win? I mean, you know, because of course I want to protect national security. You know, of course I want to support our veterans. I want to support the military and make sure that they're safe and that they're able to train and go out and not get hurt, or not, you know, be in the best preparation that they can. But I'm just curious, maybe from your perspective, is there an approach that we could take as a community and as policymakers, you know, to try to raise the kind of questions that these women have brought to our attention? You know, is this missile radar defense really the best use of our taxpayer dollars? Is there technology that might be better?
Yeah.
Are we going to, do you have any suggestions as to how, if there's some kind of win-win here?
Well, I certainly think that as legislators and as the public, we need to be very suspicious about all of these things. And that comes with 29 years in the military and 16 years as a diplomat. Having been in the government, the federal government, most of my adult life, and having worked on a lot of things to include security assistance programs for other countries, all sorts of military stuff, I say we have to be very suspicious, and we should not be embarrassed about being suspicious. That we should always question very strongly all of these programs.
Yeah.
When we know that the military budget of the United States is taking well over 55 to 60% of our tax money is going to the military, we don't need to cry for them. They got more money than everybody does by, you know, trillions of dollars. So it's not like when we question them, we are questioning, well, I do question how much money is going on national security and national defense. I think that it's an overkill that we've got going on, and it is nothing more than the senior level politicians of our federal government getting paid off by the military industrial complex for these massive, massive billion-dollar things that don't work. I mean, look how much money the F-35 has. The aircraft that the Air Force didn't even want, and we've spent billions, hundreds of billions of dollars on this. So I think it is highly appropriate that we all are very, very suspicious of all of these things. And, you know, it can be done in a gentle way, or kind of gentle way, but just to honestly question, why is that needed when we have so many other radar facilities anyway around? And why half the sky is filled with satellites that are doing exactly the same thing. They're already looking over all of the Earth for any sort of a flash that goes up, and the flash could be a volcano or it could be a missile, but our National Command Authority knows instantly when something like that's happening. So why are we going to spend another $1 billion on something that's going to ruin the sacred lands of Hawaii?
Thank you so much. So, yeah, more questions, so come up, but thank you for that, because...
And veterans will appreciate you for questioning it, because every veteran in here can tell you some stories about the stuff that they've been involved in, the fraud, waste, and abuse. So don't feel badly about questioning the military.
I know, you know, they took some of us policymakers, too, on a tour of Koli Koli, well, maybe about a year ago, to explain to us why, you know, we public can no longer use Koli Koli. Way back when I was a kid, like intermediate, when there was some kind of emergency or something, or if my friend's dad had a military pass, we could use Koli Koli to get to school. But then there was some fallout on the road and whatever. And when we asked why can't it be open for the community again, the response that we heard, and we had all the different captains from the Navy, the Army, that were all on this tour, they said, oh, there's no money. They said, we have no money, there's no money in the budget. They said that, you know, they said that, and maybe for them it's true, because these are just the guys who are just the ones in charge of just Hawaii. And they said that when we have to, like they said, they need just the sewer lines fixed, I think, for whatever, Hickam, whatever. And they said we have to beg just for that. And they said, so for us to try to ask for this road to be fixed is out of the question, because we can't even, you know, we need our sewer lines fixed. And so we were told there's no money, we're broke. And so, and that's what we're faced with at the state level too.
Why can't they stop bombing? Just stop bombing.
Exactly. I mean, so it's frustrating that, you know, obviously there's money, there's billions and billions of dollars, but you know, it's just being controlled, I guess, from, you know, the presidential level. But there was a hand back here with the blue. Do you want to be taken to?
Doesn't go that far.
Oh.
Barbara.
Just to respond, because I'm really worked up.
I know.
The Ko'olave, they've never cleaned that up.
Oh, yeah,
they don't
there's
have
no
money.
money.
Makua, they're talking about starting back up again. It's still contaminated. If you go to indigenous land anywhere, I spent a lot of time in the Navajo Nation with the Diné people. Sorry, I'm really...
It's okay, Barbara. Go get him, Barbara. Go get it, Barbara.
I'm very emotional, and I have so much that I'm feeling right now. If you go to any native land, anywhere in the world, but if you start right here, we're not in the U.S. really, but if you start in the U.S., Navajo land is declared national sacrifice area, another national sacrifice area. Why? Because they want a uranium mine and coal mine, and they've left everything contaminated, worse than Flint. And they've never cleaned it up, and the people are living in the cancer rates and the suffering. And if you go anywhere, you see the same issue, and you see that the military is known now as the number one, the reason for climate change, for all the climate change and all the issues we're facing, is because the military has contaminated every single base they're on for their own military people, not to mention that they're contaminating the earth. They're the number one polluter, according to many sources.
Right.
So it kind of goes on, and I'm sorry, I'm very worked up and very emotional, like hell bath, because I'm not sorry for speaking.
Yeah.
I'm just sorry for not being able to present it as eloquently as I'd like to. It makes me so upset. There are so many people that are hurting, starting right here, and there are so many people that are hurting everywhere I look. And the planet's hurting. Mother Earth is hurting. Enough is enough. And it's time that we say no, and if these people want to continue to live and have a good life, then learn. Learn from the original peoples here. Learn from the original peoples everywhere. And stop destroying everywhere you go. They're off into some other kind of, I'm also a mental health practitioner. This is mental health, this is a mental health issue as well. It's not well. They're not well to not be taking care of that which gives them life and nourishes and sustains us. Only cockroaches. They don't even go ahead and they don't destroy the very nourishment that gives them life. Only human beings are doing that, and only some human beings. That's right. And we're smarter than that. And our children and their children and their children have a right to live. And we all have a right to live.
That's right. I thought that was beautifully said. I just want to add one thing that when you asked, Anne, and that is, I think what's happening right now is very significant, is that the military-industrial complex knows with Donald Trump that they get whatever they want, and they are pushing and pushing to get as much as they can, either before he gets out, and they're setting up for when he wins. That's why they're doing an analysis for operationalizing PMRL. And I mean, and then they're going to get the radar going. They're like getting all their ducks in a row to just, you know, it's all pork as much as they can. So that's why it's absolutely critical that we vote him out of office. Not that any of the other candidates are anti-military. They all are pro-military. But it's, you know, it would be better. At least there would be some checks and balances, because they're talking about changing the way that military, that new technology and new weapons are deployed, like not having testing. So they're doing this like quick to market. In fact, the Pentagon has started doing these bids where they invite like Silicon Valley and all these new startups to bid on military. Like, come, they have a pitching thing like that game show, you know, with the billionaires. And they pitch and they go, I got this idea for a new drone. They can like shoot down, and they go, and they can fast track money. So it's just like a feeding frenzy. And that's why it has to be questioned and it has to be stopped.
I just wanted to say that we're related, but we don't share the same point of view. But I wanted
You're the mom.
I wanted to say that we wrote a letter, a strongly worded letter to Suzanne Case months ago from Malama Kukua. 2 letters, very strongly related, different way of putting it. I didn't get a response, and we wrote a letter from Friends of Wahiki Lolo as well, no response. So I'm thinking that, and I think that there needs to be actually a very practical, because DLNR, Suzanne Case, I believe, is the director of that. They have the way, they give the okay that the land can be used. Yeah, I mean, they have it in their power to say no, but they didn't. And they haven't responded to the letters, even to say, I'm sorry, I don't agree, whatever, but nothing. So that really kind of makes me kind of ticked. Yeah. You know, at least a response saying, I received your letter, we'll think about it, something like that. So I'm thinking that we need something a bit more. I don't know if it's a petition, or we need to go down there in person, but we need to address who gives the permission to even drill. You're talking about like hundreds of feet downward. And the other thing is, I went to a meeting, but I couldn't stay because they kept this particular topic to the end of the meeting, and I had to leave to go home to do grandmother duties and stuff. But HECO is already planning how they're going to do their electrical lines to support this facility. Hundreds of miles of, you know, new electrical lines. And I talked to the HECO guy saying, why? They haven't even gotten their permits and stuff in place yet. They said because it takes that much planning. It's a huge thing. It's a huge endeavor.
There's money already being...
Yeah, money. So I mean, it's a very complex thing, but my feeling is that there has to be actually a plan of how to say to DLNR, the answer is no. No.
Yo.
You know, no. I mean, it has to be really clear. Every time I go to one of these meetings, everybody in the room is opposed to it. I didn't hear anybody say yes. It's like they're deaf, you know?
They don't care.
So I don't know, I don't know whether they're just going to, they got to check off that they had a public meeting.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what people said. They already made their mind up already. So, I don't know, I think we need to have actually a strategic plan of how to get the DLNR to say no. Because, and the other thing that kind of disturbs me is that they have two other choices on so-called Army-owned land, Karuku. So why the heck do you have to get a new place to go to? So I understand it's because it's the view, unobstructed. And the other thing is, I'm in the health field. Our area has so much cancers, it's unreal. In young people, in children, and in adults, young adults, strange kind of cancers. It's hard to talk about it because it's a patient confidentiality issue too. But as a community, that's the truth. We have plenty of cancers here that are unexplained. And I talked to, in the public testimony, that was my issue, like what's the health effects? And so Busby says, don't worry about it, the radiation is going straight up.
Well, when it comes
So
down.
nothing falls down, I mean, I don't know, where, how wide, And then there is a study where stewardesses have a higher rate of all kinds of cancers because of the passage through these radar fields. So I feel like, it's such a risk to us, and it's an unnecessary risk as well.
That's right.
And we have such a small, precious island. Why are they trying to do it over here? Anyway, that's my piece.
Let's say something.
Just another thought to everything. I know, those of you guys that know me, I'm not really one for exercise, peaceful protest, and the reason you guys wonder why I feel the way I feel. If you guys start and as a practitioner of Lua, and that is our number one rule, before engaging your enemy, you have to understand your enemy. So if you guys like to read, I encourage you guys, read some of the autobiographies of these warmongers. General Arnold Schwarzkopf, start off with him. If you really get into the mind of a homicidal maniac, you start to understand their mentality, that sick mentality of war. Start to understand. Read these autobiographies of these guys. Okay? Then you're going to understand why I feel and why I feel the way I feel. Then I'm not going to stand in front and zip tie myself to the next battle and say, no, I'm going to hang in the bushes. And I'm going to sight in my scope. And be makakao. That's why I am the way I am. When you start understanding, you start looking around you start peeling your eyelids and what's happening to our environment, all this injustice, the heva on our wahipana, okay? Understand your enemy first before you engage them, okay? And that's why my mao is a little bit different from the next Kalaka Ranger here, And because what I've taught, even, it's taught to war colleges all over the world, the flank. We teach the world the flank. Come here, man. He never engaged his enemy head on like we're doing. Every time we meet up with the state, every time we go head on with the feds, we lose. Hit brick walls all the time. But if you go around the guy, and you chop his head from the back, how you do that? Then you start butting up, okay? Remember, Okay, prior to the illegal occupation of Hawaii, we had all of these nations behind us. Russia was one of them. Yeah? I say, bring in my friends. We'll cut here everybody back into the table. And we start questioning, are you in cahoots with the fraudulent state? Have you corrupted your treaty? Well, we're going to have to hold you accountable. Maybe that's the way, the tactic. I said change up the tactic. What we've been doing all this time, we've been hitting brick walls every time, and we fail. So this is why I say go around the chicken, cut his head from the back. I will make friends with the guys. Okay? Russia, you get one treaty with us. I will call you back in my corner. I don't know, that's just the way I think. Okay? I'm not going to zip tie myself to Kako. I love you, my brother, but it's not my way. It's not my way. Okay? I come from a line of Nali and warriors. It's important that I reflect that, Mama. Okay? That's just me. I encourage all of you guys, start to understand your enemy before you engage. Because we can go so far with Kapu Aloha. I like it because it's stalling projects. That's the important thing. But sooner or later, okay, time will be in the essence of their wallet pretty soon. And then what? What you guys gonna do? I'm gonna tell you straight up, Lahui, I'm ready to die for this. I don't know about you guys. You guys are gonna have to draw the line in the sand and pick where you're gonna be in the end. That's just me. Mahalo.
I hear my brother's pain. I'm a product of that pain. Come from generational trauma. Over 130 years. Our kupuna. But also know numbers matter too. You know, and if everybody over here, if you can think of all your family members and friends that love you, that trust you, that will stand on the line with you, I would say go kuka with them. And bring them. Because like, I teach my boys to be critical thinkers, to question even me. To question me not just for grumble, but for question me with multiple sources, not just one source, but many sources. Because Bob Marley got it right when he said, emancipate your minds from mental slavery, because none but ourselves can free our minds. We live in this freaking matrix. So like Brother Poki said, peel your eyelids back, Allah. But when the people rise together, like a mighty wave, they can't stop us. Yeah? So everybody over here, I assume, is awoken already. So let's go and continue to awoken all our people that you can trust, that trust you and love you. You know, because with numbers, you get the 1%ers out there, they're the puppeteers, they're the puppet masters. To me, Ige is just some puppet. He's just some puppet. We gotta look around who the ones that they're pulling them strings. The ones that hiding in the dark. You know, there's so much things going on to Papahana Omoku that, you know, when you talk about Keapua, the island is the one that sustains us and everything with the island. Yeah, so everybody over here, I assume, is awoken. It's to wake other people up. You know, because I feel my brother's pain. And me too. That's the difference. Eric would be right there freaking up in arms. But through history, change never come without a mohai, without a sacrifice. And that's what Brother Poki talking about. That's what Uncle Sparky, when we had him talk about before July 15 or June 15, when Ige said was going to be the first day. Myself, Auntie Lynda, and Uncle Sparky was in Mako Valley and was talking about. And Uncle Sparky is ready for being Mohai too. And think about that. He would already make all his affairs in order, so that if the day was to come on the mountain and he was to die, he was ready. Now I want you guys to think about that. Mahanai Maharani is ready for die too. That's a trauma that we live with every single day as Kanaka Maori. And as people, as first people of the Aina. And no matter what, if you go back to your people, to your genesis of your people, you have to have been Aloha Aina. If you go back to the very beginning of your ethnicity, I guarantee you, your ancestors was Aloha Aina first. Because if there wasn't Aloha Aina, they wouldn't have thrived. They wouldn't have survived. So it's in us, everybody. It's in our innate, in our na'au. And even as Kanaka, if an ali'i wasn't serving his people, the people had every right to kill that ali'i. Right, Puki'i? So I just wanted to say, I love each and every one of you guys. We are woken. So let's go awake everybody that you know that will trust you, that love you.
We can wrap it up and thank everyone. We gotta wrap up.
You wrap up.
Here, hold that. So I was thinking about 10 different things I should say, but you know what, we're out of time. I just wanted to thank you all, and I want to thank you, especially Miley. You made it possible for us to have this discussion. Thank you.
Mahalo, Miley.
It's really awesome. Makaha Hawaiian Civic Club and Waianae Hawaiian
Yeah.
Civic Club, all for food and for
Mahalo.
businesses.
Mahalo, Nui.
But the other thing I want to say is that it's awesome to have you and you present, because one of the things we know we can do is we can ask you to help. There needs to be some kind of protocol where any kind of news that is supposed to come down to the community gets relayed to people who are representing that community. Write that bill. Or if why would you not know about stuff that would be impacting on this community? Something is definitely wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe try to facilitate how we can get information in a timely way, because I think all of us are operating on limited information.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have people coming here to tell us about what's going on over here. How can that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's this disconnect somewhere, and it would be good if we already
Being
had that
strategic.
information. However, I'm glad you came. Glad you came.
Thank you so much.
But it's weird. It's kind of strange that we don't even have in our own community experts who can speak to this issue in our community. So that's kind of like strange. So I'm happy you're here, and we'll figure it out, because one thing I know we can do is we can hear more. So I think this kind of gathering where information comes to the community from people who have expertise from wherever they come from, that should happen more often. You want to raise consciousness in the community, you got to give them information that they lack. We lack. We don't know anything. So I just wanted to say thank you. We got about 15 minutes to clean up this place, and we got to be out of here by 9 o'clock.
Okay.
That's it. Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef, tomorrow.
Okay, so if you guys are interested, tomorrow, November 11th, is the Queen Liliuokalani's birthday.
Listen up, everybody.
There's a number of different things happening, but one of the things is a commemoration of her death day at Iolani Palace at 10 o'clock. You are welcome to join us. We will have some ceremony at the Queen statue, but also some kick-ass speakers, and we will remember her on her death day, 102 years ago. So it's something that we ought to remember, because she's our hero.
Yeah.
She was a peacemaker. Got that? So that's why she's our hero. Thank you.
All right.
Got that?
I have all of these left. Maybe this could be handed out to people who straight up are going to those meetings. Can you make that happen?
We have meetings tomorrow.
Well, no, but I mean, like, they're going to have these meetings at the... Who was it that was...
Which neighborhood board is that going to be?
Yeah.
It's at Nanakuli Neighborhood Board. Ours was Waianae, but Nanakuli, it's going to be at the library, right in front of this school.
But who, I have all these left over. Are you going to that meeting?
I will go just to make sure that's distributed.
Okay.
I'll be happy to.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do that for you.
This is Tim. Hi, Tim.
How do you do, honey?
Yeah.
Glad to meet you.
And this is for you. Here, give me a couple of these. I'm
Sure.
going to give them to her so that you can distribute them. And you're young. You're till Saturday if some high school wanted me to talk. I don't know if we can happen that fast.
I want a picture of you guys.
We could have a group shot.
Yeah, should we go?
You guys, yeah. Group shot for anybody who wants to be it.
Lynda, you're coming to the
And would anybody that doesn't want to take a picture,
I want to get one with my two good-looking senators.
Okay.
Here you go. One more here really quickly.
Okay. Which meeting?
Oh, yes, I'm going to that, of course. Okay, me now. Hi.
Hi.
Okay,
You want to get a big group?
oh, yeah, we got to get a group picture. I want a picture.
Picture. Oh, maybe over there.
Yeah, it's good for your image to be seen with good-looking women, right?
I agree.
I want to be that sword.
Group picture!
There's no water.
Group photo!
Yes. Good shot over there. Everybody has together. You guys gotta get closer.
Everybody come on. Ready up. Up the steps. Shot is on the step.
Oh, that's great. Good idea. Get us run.
Who's taking the picture?
Come on, everybody.
Who's taking the picture?
Okay, everybody. Love you guys. Aloha.